what happened was that night I reflected and I pulled my kids closer to me because he told me, he said, what you're doing is wrong. You know, you're pushing everyone away. You should bring everyone closer to you, because I pushed my family away. I pushed especially my friends away because, you know, I've always been this confident person. I've always been a high flyer and overachiever, and for me to be afflicted with a mental health condition, it came with a lot of shame. There was a lot of fear present, and so when anyone, you know, wanted to reach out to help me, I would typically not take it, because one, asking for help isn't something that I'm used to. Two, receiving help is also something that I'm not used to, because, you know, in our culture, in our society, we're all, you know, the perception is you have to have everything all together, right? So this was really what happened to me as well. It was very difficult for me to ask for help, and it was even more difficult for me to receive that help. But what happened was that night I reflected and I pulled my kids closer to me. I hugged them after what was a very, very long time. Because I couldn't take care of anyone else, right? My mom had to step in to take care of the family and my kids. My husband had to step in and provide that emotional support for everyone, and he had to go to work. So it was a lot for everyone. I think, you know, at the end, he too felt helpless. And I realized that the reason why he said that to me was because he knew I needed it. I needed a boost, right? I needed a push on really to be able to reflect on what to do next and how to move to the next phase of my recovery. Now, when that happened, guys, this was really the turning point for me. That night, this is when anger came in. Not angry towards anyone, but angry towards the condition, because the condition crippled me. It made me feel trapped within my struggles. And through that anger was when willpower came in. And this is one of the things that I always say. Not everyone needs willpower. It's like an MO that we all have, right? And through that willpower that I acquired, because of the anger that was present, was how I was able to cross over to my recovery journey. And let me tell you, it is the hardest thing that I have ever done in my entire existence, is to go through that recovery process and to live with a mental health condition. These are the two most hardest things that I have ever had to endure. And this wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for the support, right? Because when you're going through a mental health condition and challenges, and we're talking about 9 years ago, I didn't know where to get for help. I didn't have any knowledge. I didn't know, there wasn't any, you know, poster information, you know, are you depressed or are you anxious? You know, this is where you seek for help, you know, this is the helpline available. There was no such thing. So I didn't know how to go through that recovery process, but through that support, that was my leg up for me. And then when I was able to cross over to recovery, that was when I learned the holistic approach to that recovery process. And really, ultimately what really helped me was learning about my symptoms, learning effective coping mechanisms, and the spiritual component, spirituality. Because through the connection, not that I have a great connection with God, but through that connection was how I was able to understand, like what Dr. Fahmi mentioned earlier, the purpose of me being afflicted with a condition. What does this condition mean? What does this illness mean? How do I make myself or my life more meaningful and purposeful, right? And what is God trying to teach me? What are the lessons behind this affliction? And I think through that holistic approach, that was how I was able to go through that recovery process more effectively. So if you look at this slide right here, this is my husband and my 2 kids. And although you see them really young, my son is actually taller than me today. And my daughter is about my height. So this is a couple years ago. But I was afflicted 9 years ago, guys. So it has been nearly a decade now. Thank you. Now, when we fast forwarded, I had a conversation with my husband one day, just a casual chat, and he said, you know, why don't you go public with your condition? I was shocked. I said, why would I do that? He said, well, you know, you might provide help to other people. People might feel inspired and it might provide a way out for others. And I said, aren't you afraid that people would think your wife's crazy? And obviously, right, because I'm shocked, and 9 years ago, that was the perception, right? If you have or if you live with a mental health condition, you must be crazy, or you must be dangerous, or you're gonna flip out, right? Or you're gonna be violent, or you're gonna start screaming, and you definitely can't recover. So that was the perception. Now, knowing that this was the wider society's perception during the time, I too internalized stigma. But what happened was my husband said, well, I know you're not crazy, and I think that's enough. Now, through just that one suggestion was how he empowered me, just giving me an idea, and that was how the establishment of MIASA happened in 2016. And this is one of the things that we say a lot about, right? We can, when we work in silos, obviously we can accomplish things, but if we work together, we can create miracles. So when we came into the mental health space, as I expected, there was a lot of resistance, again, because people didn't know what to make out of us. And after years of doing this work, my team and I, we agreed on, we will allow the work to speak for itself. And this was exactly what happened. Not only do we do advocacy and awareness here in Malaysia, but we do it across the globe. And also providing relief support and livelihood support for people who struggle with mental health challenges and persons with disabilities and more of the marginalized and vulnerable communities. Now, MIASA's Clubhouse, we formed this in 2020. And this is the first activity center and crisis management center that is led by people with lived experience of a mental health condition. And we also do, massive outreach programs, activities, and we have also established our crisis helpline, 24/7, which is 1-800-1-800-66, which is manned by 200 trained volunteers, and also our crisis WhatsApp line 0397656088. And today we have 1,710 volunteers across the nation. Please give them a big round of applause. And also 833 members across the nation as well. Now, one of our dreams being MIASA is not only to amplify the voices of people with lived experience of a mental health conditions, people with disabilities, voices of the marginalized and vulnerable groups, but also our dream is to close mental institutions once and for all in Malaysia. So it is the deinstitutionalization of mental health care. Now, the reason for this is simple. Nobody in isolation can recover. Nobody being forced into treatments, being coerced, can recover. We must implement good practices and adopt these good practices in Malaysia. And these good practices are evidenced over the years outside of Malaysia, right? I've been to many countries across the globe. I've been to Tres in 2019, let me tell you. They've closed down mental institutions since the 1970s. Today, their suicide ratio has been declining for the past 20 years by 50%, guys, 50. And their forensic ward, which is 24/7, is an open forensic ward. So we must empower people to go through that recovery journey. We must trust them, even if they're in deep psychosis, right? We must enable that informed decision and informed consent. Right? We must empower them to make choices and decisions for themselves. And if that trust is built, if we're able to do that, then more people will be able to recover effectively in the community. Now, our vision, what it looks like in practice, is actually a community, a supported community living where everyone lives together and we're able to connect people to jobs, to supported accommodation, to transportation, to social welfare, everything that can help a person to lead quality lives empowered by their own choices and decisions. Now, in order to do that, it will cost millions. And obviously we don't have the money. I don't, but the government and the ministry does. So we can all work together to make that vision to becoming a reality. But what I can offer today to all of you is this. Let us join hands, join forces. Let's work together so that people that are currently struggling know that there is a way out, know that there is hope. They don't have to die. And obviously they don't have to die by despair or by suicide, because we as the community can be empowered to help one another. And I need all of us to have this vision so that we can create a fairer, a better, and a safer Malaysia for the future generation and the generations that follow. So let's build back better, guys, and let's build change better. And finally, I hope that all of us being here today, we know what is happening in our current world, which I would like to take that opportunity in this 30 seconds to all of us to come together, providing our dua, providing some donations, providing what we can to help ease the current crisis that is happening. So long live Palestine. Thank you very much, everyone, and keep healing the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Puan Anita, for your story. Ladies